Yeah.
I totally
Well,
forgot.
no, it's okay. We will going forward, which is going to be the most important part. We'll have that recording. But thank you for suggesting that. Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
So moving on. Everyone okay thus far? Does anyone have any questions? Okay.
No.
All
I'm
right.
good.
So this is what it looks like. And what I did was I did a download last week and I took a small segment of all of the lines that are relevant to us. And that's what we're going to work off of. And that's what I sent you this morning. Yeah, whether it's 70,000 lines or 70 lines, it's all the same as long as you understand it conceptually, okay? So what I want you guys to do is on one page, have this spreadsheet open, and we're gonna work through this together. You're gonna follow me step by step, and on the other, you're just gonna have this presentation open so that you can watch what I do and do it along with me, okay?
Okay.
What you need in order to put any sort of report together, first and foremost, is a baseline of Excel functions, right? You have to know, and I've kind of sorted these Excel functions into the most important to the least important, or at least the ones that you need to know the most versus the ones that probably everybody knows. Some sort of like, direction that way. And we're going to go through each step one by one as you encounter them after you download well, after you do a download, right? What is the first thing you do? What is the next thing you do? And the third thing you do, and so on. So here are the prerequisites, right? Text to columns, VLOOKUPs. This is the absolute most important thing that you need. Absolute most important. The only other thing that I've used more than VLOOKUPs is the sum function. Like there is I can't stress this enough. So that we're going to be spending a lot of times on VLOOKUPs. All of these other formulas, all of these other things that we're doing here is just to support support VLOOKUPs. That's how important they are. Okay. Then we have multi-sorts, concatenations, right formulas, nested formulas, conditional formatting, mid, if, or. This is the second most important. That's the pivot table function. This is what will allow you to present this data, sort the data, analyze the data in a way that makes sense for whoever you're giving it to. Not everyone needs to see every single detail, right? If you're going to send a report to, I don't know, one of your PMs, they don't need to see all the details. If you send a summary report to Luann, she doesn't need to see all the details. But for you guys, you might need to see certain details. So you need to be able to manipulate this data in a way that's most efficient for the task, okay? And pivot tables allow you to do that. And obviously sum function, I think this is something that everybody knows, right? I would assume that everybody here knows how to use the sum function, so it's not as important for this exercise here. Any questions before we move on to text to columns?
No.
Okay, the other thing I want you guys to do is if you know something already, let me know. So, and if this is something that everyone is familiar with, I'm not going to spend as much time on it. But if it's something that someone isn't familiar, even if one person does not know how to do it, I will go through it in a bit more detail. Okay. Text to columns. Have you guys ever used this before? Text to columns function.
Not as much. So it's been a while.
Yeah.
Okay. Gavin, no. Okay.
No, not really that much. No.
Okay, cool. So this is pretty important, and it's a really powerful tool if you can use it. And I think you can get a lot of benefit out of it. So the first thing that when we download this report is that this is what it looks like, and that was the same download that I did. I just formatted it a little bit. I made this blue, but these are all the same lines. And I took a couple of IDs. I took a couple of IDs and just as an excerpt, and we're going to work off of these. And this will be this. If you understand this, you'll understand the entire report, irrespective of how many lines there are in that. Okay. Text to columns. So in this, we see that when you download the report, it puts the agency code first, right? But for our formulas that are coming up, for example, VLOOKUPs, we don't need the agency code in front. In fact, some of our formulas will not work if the agency code is up front like this. So what we have to do is we have to remove the 850 and retain the FMS ID. So what we're going to do is we're going to create We're going to do a text to columns split. So what I want you guys to do is in column B, you're going to highlight and you're going to add a row. You can right click and hit insert, or you can just hit Control plus on the number pad, which is the shortcut. And it adds a row for you. Everyone following so far?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So after that, what we're going to do is you're going to highlight everything in column A. Everything. You're just not going to copy the title, but from ID all the way down, you're going to highlight. Okay. A shortcut to highlight, by the way, if you want to select everything, you could hit Control Shift and then the down arrow, and it'll highlight everything. Control Shift down. You don't have to click and then drag, although you can, but the faster way to do it is Control Shift down. And now once it's highlighted, you're going to go to Data up here, and then you see over here it says Text to Columns. You're going to click Text to Columns, and it's going to pull up this window. What you want, but don't worry about fixed width. You're never going to need that. What you want is delimited. Make sure delimited is checked off, and you're going to hit next. Now, what text to column does is it takes a delimiter, like a semicolon or a comma or a space or a period or an exclamation or a semicolon, whatever you want. And then what it does is whenever it encounters one of those things, it's going to split the information into two separate columns, one before that delimiter and one after that delimiter. Luckily, after 850, there's a space in all of the FMS IDs, right? So we can use the space as our delimiter. And when we hit next and then finish, it says there's already data here. Do you want to replace it? That's okay. And when you hit OK, look, the 850 goes up on the left over here, and it neatly separates our FMS IDs on the right. Did everyone get this result when they did it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yep.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So this is really powerful. If you guys recall our commitment plan meetings, when we sit through with the programs right before all the plans, you'll see me make a lot of comments, right? Like we'll say transfer, then I'll do a comma, and then I'll do amount, like 500, and then I'll do 2, and now I'll just use one of these FMS ID, PV 176 CESU, and then I'll do like design. Or I'll do, yeah, anyway, I'll do design. It doesn't really matter. The reason why I make my comments like this is because it saves me time. And second, I could just do the text to columns function later on. I could delimit with a comma, and then I'll have a separate column for each of these, and then I could just do I could just do adjustment, amount, FMS ID, and object. So I don't have to go through each and every single one of these to then like make a specific note for what I want, right? When I could just have this done separately at the end. That's one of the functions that you could use for text to columns to make your analysis easier. You just use whatever delimiter you want to use, make the comment you want to make, and then after the fact, when the meeting is over, you can just do a text to columns function and you got it separated.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
The reason why we need this text to columns function is really important for the next step, which is our VLOOKUP. And that's where we're going to get into next. So is everyone clear with this? Any questions?
No.
No.
Clear.
All right, let's move on to tab 2, the VLOOKUP tab. This is the singular most important thing that I want you guys. If you guys take away nothing else from this, just learn VLOOKUPs. It's very powerful, very, very powerful. So what a VLOOKUP does, are you guys familiar with the VLOOKUP, first of all? Do you know what it does?
Yeah, I know a little bit about it.
Okay.
It's like, I think it's kind of like filters out some of the parameters depending on what you're looking for.
Well, sort of. So what it does is it allows you to pull in pull in data based on a another piece of data, basically. So for example, if you notice when we do our downloads, obviously we don't have our DDC divisions and our DDC units in the original download, if you guys recall. And that's really important because how else are we going to know which project belongs to who and how do we split this up? So what we do is Elsa and I, and then we mentioned this earlier, we have this master form, FMS master form, and we keep track of all the FMS IDs and where they belong, which unit, which division. And this is, for example, these are all the FMS IDs that have ever existed with DDC ever. And then we have their primary ID, we have which division they belong to, which unit, which infrastructure unit, the description, and whether it's a ped ramp or sidewalk. And what we do is we use this as a lookup table in order to pull in the information that we need. And we're going to do that right now for these projects. So this is this is a whole hodgepodge of different projects, right? Some are libraries, some are, courts, some are culturals, etc. But we need to know where they belong. So what we're going to do is a VLOOKUP. And the syntax for the VLOOKUP is up here in KL. And the way it works is you're going to hit equals VLOOKUP. And I want you guys to do it with me. And then it's going to ask you for a lookup value. That's what you want to look up. We want to look up this FMS ID to figure out where it belongs. Okay, so you're going to do VLOOKUP and you're going to click cell A3. Okay, and then you're going to hit comma. The next part of this formula is the table or array that you want to look it up in. So now if you scroll to the right, I already have a preset table for you guys to use as a lookup. And what we're going to do is just from columns O, P, and Q, you're just going to click and highlight. And if you look at it, it gives you the FMS ID, which division it belongs to, and which unit it belongs to. Okay, so we're going to highlight O, P, and Q. And then the additional thing that I want you to do is hit F4. And the reason why we hit F4 is that it locks the cell. So if you ever drag and drop, or if you just drag the formula down, what would happen is it would maintain the relation on the spreadsheet, so it will drag down the formula reference as well, and you don't want that to happen. And I'll show you what I mean by that in a second, so it makes more sense. So just hit F4 so that it locks the cells, and you know it's locked because you have these dollar signs in front of the column letters. So what we're asking the formula to do is, hey, look up A3, which is this FMS ID. Check this table, check the first column in this table, right? And I want you to return which division it belongs to, right? And if you look at our table, this array that we've created, this is column 1 in the array, this is column 2 in the array, and this is column 3 in the array, right? So what you're asking the formula to do is, hey, return to me, look up, go down this list, and when you encounter this FMS ID, return to me whatever is in column P, and that which is the second column in this array. So because it's the second column in the array, you're going to hit 2, comma, and what we want is an exact match, meaning like not an approximate match. Not if you encounter, like if it encounters a STA somewhere in those, any other FMS ID that has an STA, it would pull that up. That's not what we want. We want an exact FMS ID match. So for an exact match, we want to type in false, FALSE, and then close parentheses and hit enter. So in plain English, what happened was I told the formula, hey, I want to find S136419L. And here is the reference table that you're going to use to find S136419L. Okay. So the formula starts going down the list and until it finds S136419L. Oh, here it is. Here's S136419L. Then what I'm telling it to do is, okay, now that once you encounter S136419L, I want you to give me what's in the second column in that array, which is PB. And I want you to give me the exact match. So if you found something that looks similar, I don't want you to give me that. I want you to give me exactly when you encounter S136419L, give me the second, whatever's in the second column of this array. It happens to be PB. And that's our result, PB. Let's do it again for unit. Now let's try to grab the unit that is part of, which is sanitation, right? So again, I'm going to say, hey, look up S136419L in this array that we created, okay? And in this array, it's going to be column 1, 2, 3. It's going to be in column 3. So when you encounter this FMS ID, spit out the result that's in column 3, which happens to be sanitation. So let's do that here now. Equals VLOOKUP. We're going to go to the left. This is what we're looking up, this FMS ID, S136419L, comma. We're going to look it up in this array, FMS ID division unit. We want the third column. We want whatever is in the third column, which happens to be our sanitation, which happens to be the unit. So again, what we forgot to do is put a $sign in front, which is F4. Goes VLOOKUP, FMS ID, comma, this array, F4, which locks the cells, comma, I want what's in the third column of the array, not the third column of the whole spreadsheet, the third column of this designated array that we created in the second part. And so that would be 3. And I want an exact match, false. Close parentheses. And boom, we get sanitation. Now what you could do is you can copy this, once you've done it once, now you can copy this formula and pull it all the way down here. Right click, paste formulas, and now you've filled in all of the divisions. It just happens to be PB because everything is a PB project here, as well as the unit that it belongs in. So you don't have to manually go in and type in which unit they belong to. You can just use this reference table to fill in which units they belong to. Any questions? Does this make sense?
Makes sense.
Okay. Did anyone encounter any results or any other results than what we were looking for? Did everyone get the correct result?
Yeah, I got it.
You got it?
Mine was
Yep.
off because it was under N instead of OPQ. Mine was NOP.
Oh, okay. But then you adjusted it, right?
Yeah, I
OPQ?
had to adjust it on NOP.
Okay. So what would happen if I didn't lock the cells, right? So I just want to give you an example of that and why locking the cells is so important. So let's just say I have this, right? So I'm going to do the same formula, equals VLOOKUP, look up the same FMS ID, comma, and now I do this, right? Without locking the cells. I'm going to find what's in column 2, false. Cool. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at column 3 because that'll make more sense. We got sanitation. If I drag this down, do you see how the formula itself is dragging down? Our reference table is dragging down as well. And it's missing all the stuff up top. Do you see that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You see that?
Yeah.
It's dragging
Yeah.
down. And by the time you get down here, this ID, this FMS ID was up there somewhere. This is LNCA10AGL. LNCA10AGL is up here, but it's not part of the reference table anymore. So it spits out an error because it can't find it. But by locking these cells, by hitting F4 and then dragging down, it says maintain this as the reference table always, irrespective of how you drop down. And it always maintains that as the reference table. So that's very important. That's why we lock the cells. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. All right, let's go back. By the way, you can look at what the formula is looking at by hitting F2. That's like a formula preview. That's what I'm doing right now. Okay, done and done. Any questions? Any concerns? Grace, you good? You've been kind of quiet. All right. Anyone else have any questions before we move on?
And this would work like, let's say the chart that we're looking up is on another sheet. We'll just go to that sheet, highlight whatever the columns that we want it
Yeah.
to look up. Okay.
Yeah, it would do exactly that. In fact, I'll do it for
Okay.
you right now. Just as a proof of concept. I'm going to take our master spreadsheet and I'm going to copy it into that sheet really quickly. So here's our master. This has everything. So this is a total of 9,000 lines, right? So 9,000 FMS IDs that we have. And instead of looking up this table, I'm going to look up using the master spreadsheet in a that I just copied in. VLOOKUP S136419. I'm going to go to the master spreadsheet. I'm going to copy 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Hit F4 to lock the cells, comma. And I want what's in column C over here, right? Because it's the array is 1, 2, 1, first column,
Right.
second column, third column, fourth column. I want what's in the third column. I'm going to hit 3, exact match, because I want, so I put in false, close parentheses, and there it is, PB.
Okay.
I could do the same thing if I wanted the unit, exact same formula. I just copied it over. And instead of 3, I want 4, because if you look over here, that is the fourth column in the array that I set up, which is 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
And it pulled in the result. As long as your result is the same, it will pull in the correct result. And then I could just copy this formula, paste it all the way down. And there you go.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any questions?
Look.
All right, let's move on. So that is the VLOOKUP function. We're going to come back to this in the future when we encounter another issue with concatenations. But for now, that's all you need to know. There is one other thing that you need to know. VLOOKUPs will only return to you the first result that it encounters. So if you have multiple, like this is fine for division and unit, right? Because there's always only going to be one division. There's always only going to be one unit, right? The problem comes up if you have something like amounts, right? Because we have multiple occurrences for the same FMS ID, and we have multiple objects for the same FMS ID. Now, if you want to pull in something for occurrence, say, I'll show you here. I've actually prepared it for you. Let's look at S1 for S136419L. Let's say you have in occurrence 3, occurrence 2, and occurrence 1, and occurrence 99. You have these plan amounts, and you want to see, okay, this is what we registered. What did we have in the plan, right? And if I use this to pull in the amount for occurrence 1, you see occurrence 1 is over here. Let me hide these so that you can see easier. So we're looking up for S136419L. We want to pull in what's in occurrence 1. And over here in occurrence 1, you see we've registered, well, we've registered 23, or actually 24. We've registered 23, and on our plan, we have 24, right? So we want to pull in this 24 amount. But if I use a VLOOKUP here for the plan amount, if I do a VLOOKUP to get the plan, VLOOKUP S136, and I use this same array, so it's 1 column, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I want to pull in what's in column 5 for the plan amount, false, it did not give me what's in occurrence 1. It gave me the first entry that it found. First time that it encounters S136419L, it's going to give you that result. And that's not what we want. Okay, we wanted to see what's in occurrence 1, which is 24, and we didn't get that. So just be aware that there's other things that you need to do when you start to match up amounts or things that are in multiple lines. But we'll get to that a little bit later. I'll show you exactly how to circumvent this problem and what we do to circumvent, but you have to know a bit more before we get to that. For now, just understand what a VLOOKUPs function is. You reference something from a table, and then you get a result that's in that same table, that is, in the same columns or in the same row as that table. I'm sorry. So, is that clear? Do you get the limitation that we encountered here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Next, now that we've put in the VLOOKUPs over here, and I just did it for you because I don't want to do it again, right, on this page. The next thing that we should do is probably sort these in a way that makes sense to us. So let's do a multi-sort. Do you guys know how to do multi-sorts? You guys have seen that before, I'm guessing. If not, the way you do it is you're going to highlight this entire table, including the headings. So you're going to copy, or you're going to highlight all the way, Control Shift down, and that will highlight the entire table. Control Shift down. Okay. And then you're going to go up here. You're going to go to, where is it? You're going to go to Data. And in Data, there's this thing called Sort. This function called Sort. Hit Data Sort. And up on the right in KL, I have what we want to sort by. We want to first sort by division, then we want to sort by unit, then we want to sort by FMS ID, and finally occurrence. So what you're going to do is do just that. So you're going to sort first. Right now that's sorted by occurrence. We don't want that. First, we're going to sort by division. Then we're going to sort by FMS ID. Then over here, we're going to add a level. And you're going to, oh, I'm so sorry. It's division, unit, FMS ID, occurrence. So division, then unit, then FMS ID, and finally occurrence. Is everyone's pop-up look like this?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. And you hit OK, and boom, it sorts everything for you the way in that order. First, it's sorted by division, PB, everything is PB, so it's not hard. Then it's going to sort by unit alphabetically. Culturals first, then fire, then libraries, and then sanitation. Then it's by FMS ID alphabetically. And then finally by occurrence line. Simple enough, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is the order, when I download a report, this is the order that I do it in. So first thing I do is text the columns, right? The next thing I do is I pull in the division and unit because I need to know what the divisions and units are. The third thing I do is a multi-sort so that everything is sorted neatly and I don't have to worry about it later. And now we're going to move on to the next step. Any questions? This is pretty straightforward, the multi-sort, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Next, we're going to work on concatenations. This is pretty important. A concatenation, and again, going forward from this point, everything is just going to be to circumvent that issue that we had with the VLOOKUP. Okay, but you can acquire a lot of really, really important skills that you can use in other applications as well. But this is just catered towards this. And you'll learn how to do concatenations and what the importance of concatenations are. So what a concatenation does is basically it takes in data in two cells and it puts it together, hence concatenate. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're going to fix this issue with the occurrence lines, because this is not the way that occurrence lines show up, right? In FMS, occurrence lines are always 3 digits. It's always 001 or 003 or 005. Here it's 250, but that's 3 digits anyway. But Excel deletes the leading zeros. So that's why it ends up looking like this. This is important because what we want when we do our VLOOKUPs, we want the same number of characters. Otherwise, our lookups don't work. FMS IDs are usually always 9 characters, right? Always going to be 9 characters. And then whatever characters are not there, if it's a shorter FMS ID, is replaced by spaces. Object codes, right, for registrations are always going to be 4 characters. Object codes in the plan amounts are always 4 characters. Occurrence lines are always 3 characters. But now if you have these variations, right, where occurrence lines are like just one character or 2 characters, then it's going to create problems when you try to link up specific values related to an FMS ID. Like if you want to see what's an occurrence line 1 for design, and it's using 1 character as opposed to 3, then our VLOOKUPs won't work. That's why it's important that we sort this out first. Okay. And there's a couple of ways to do that. I'm going to show you the simpler way to the more complex way as we go along, right? The complex way is the one that I prefer. But once you get it once, it's like riding a bike. You'll always know how to do it. So what is a concatenation? So the first thing that we need to do is we need to create 3 characters out of this. The first way to do it is to just hit a single quotation and add a 00. And then Excel will accept that as 3 characters. Again, single quotation 00, that becomes 003, single quotation 00, that becomes 005. But that is a long way to do it. And when you have set 100,000 lines, that's not what you want to be doing. So we need to find another way. And that other way is a concatenation. So what we're going to do is, there's 2 things you can concatenate. You can concatenate data within a cell. So I could hit equals fund ampersand reg, and it'll just concatenate both of these amounts into one, like in one cell. That's one way to concatenate. And it's a very valid way, and we often use that. But the other way to concatenate is text that you define within the formula itself. And what do I mean by that? If you hit equals, open double quotations, then I hit 000, closed double quotations. Now I do the ampersand and select the occurrence line and hit enter. Now it's added the 000 and combined it with the occurrence line here. Does that make sense?
Do you have one extra 0 in there? Or
I do. And there's a reason why. There's a reason
Okay.
why I have that. That's going to be addressed in the next step. Okay. So you're going to copy this and drag it all the way down. Right click, paste as formulas. And here we go. So in our concatenation, what we did, this still doesn't look like the occurrence line, right? Because the occurrence line uses 3 instead of 3 characters or 3 digits instead of like whatever we have here. But we had to add 3 zeros because in 250, actually, this will be better explained in the next step. So any questions? Any questions with this?
Can you do the formula one more time and for that one again? Because I was trying to get it and it wasn't linking in.
Sure, no problem. So you're going to do equals, open double quotations, 000, closed double quotations, ampersand, and you're going to select the occurrence. And that gives you the 0001 that we're looking for, the concatenation. So
Hey,
we didn't,
Faizan, sorry. Well,
yeah,
I was using the formula concat, but I think you found a better one without using that word.
concat is just more like things to type.
Right,
So
exactly.
I don't use concat. Concat is important when you want to nest a formula within the concatenation, which is valid as well. So, and you won't be able to do that with an ampersand. That's the reason why concat is used. And we haven't gotten to nested formulas yet. But when we get to that, I'll give you another example. Each of them have a function. But for this is a very simple one, and we don't need to use concat for that.
Okay, all right. Thanks.
You're welcome. Does it make sense, guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
Gavin, you good?
Yeah, yeah,
It
yep,
worked?
I got
Okay.
it. Yeah, thank you.
So I'm going to copy this formula over again. Oh, ugly. And here now we have like a bunch of digits, right? Now what we need to do is we need to extract 3 digits out of these. And for that, what we're going to do is use the next formula in tab 5 called the right formula. Okay. So if you guys click on over to the right tab, here's what we ended up with last time. Here's the occurrence. Here's the concatenation. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the right formula here, and its syntax is up here, equals right, AB. What that means is you're going to hit equals right, open parentheses. What is the text that you want to extract from, or the cell that you want to extract from? We want to extract from here, right? How many characters on the right do you want to extract? Remember, occurrence lines are 3 characters, so we want 001 here, we want 003 here, we want 005 here, and we want 250 here. We want 007 here, we want 450 here, and so on, right? So what we want is 3 characters. We want to extract 3 characters from the right-hand side. So we're going to hit 3 for the number of characters you want to extract from this cell, close parentheses, and hit enter. And boom, there you have it. I copy this all the way down, drag it, and paste formulas. And here we have the occurrence lines as they show up in FMS2 with 3 characters. Again, the syntax is you're going to write, open parentheses, the cell from which you want to extract the text from, comma, and how many characters on the right that you want to extract.
So that's why we included 3 zeros.
That's exactly why we included 3 zeros. Because for 250, otherwise, if we didn't include 3 zeros, then for 250 we wouldn't have that. Like you would always be short. What we want to do is we want to standardize 3 characters all at once. So otherwise, what you would have to do is you would have to go for everything that was already, say, for these. This is 250 for all the. You would have to use a different formula for the ones that have 3 characters, a different formula for the ones that have 2 characters, and a different formula for the ones that have 1 character. But this way, we just standardize all of it. We just add 3 zeros, and we extract the 3 characters on the right, and boom, and you don't have to think about all that. So now, to drive this point home even further, let's go back. I mean, you don't have to do this, but you could just watch my screen. Do you remember when we did the whole text to columns issue?
Yeah.
Right? So what you also could have done, let me open up one of the FMS, the download that we did this morning to make it easier. The other thing that we could have done is we could have used the right formula here as well. FMS IDs are usually 9 characters. So I could have done right. This, and then I could do 9 characters. Oh, but we encountered a problem. because this is not 9 characters. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we end up with a 0. So for this one, what we actually end up using is a formula called the mid formula. I don't want to confuse you guys, but what I was trying to get at is you can also use this instead of doing a text to columns. You can use one of these formulas to pull in the FMS ID rather than just do a text to columns. And that's actually my preferred way, but we'll get to that. I use the mid formula, which works essentially the same way as the right formula, which is mid, open parentheses. I click on this. I want to start, and then the mid formula says, at what point do you want to start the extraction? So I want to start at 1, 2, 3, space is also a character, right? So I want to start after the 4th, and the number of characters that I want is a 9, because FMS ID will be maximum 9. And there we go, we pulled in the FMS ID. That's another way to do it, but we'll get to that. That's also pretty important. So there's many ways to skin a cat is all I'm trying to say. Okay, any questions with the concatenation? Okay, everyone understand how we pulled in the occurrence amount? The correct number of characters for the occurrence? Everyone clear?
Yeah.
So now here is my preferred method of using this formula. The problem with this is you have to create 2 separate columns in order to extract it. You have to get the concatenation column, right? And then you need the right column in order to pull it in. But you don't, if you understand how nested formula works, you could do it all in one shot. And all a nested formula is a formula within a formula, like Inception. So what we want is, what we're essentially going to do is we're going to use a formula to do the concatenation function within the entire right formula itself. And here's how that looks. So what I want is equals right, and do it with me. Now, instead of, if you remember the concatenation formula, all we're doing is we're saying take 0, 0, 0 and whatever is in cell G3, right? We could just do that within the right formula itself. We could say right, open parentheses twice because it's a formula within a formula. Now I'm just going to do parentheses, that same 0, 0, 0, close quotations, and I'm going to select the occurrence line over here. So all we did was we just nested the same concatenation within the right formula. So it's saying, hey, look at, concatenate this 0, 0, 0 with this, whatever's in this column. And then the result that you get from that, pull 3 characters from the right, close parentheses. And we got that exact same result in one shot. This is a little complicated, so I could do it again for you. So I'm going to do, for the next column, I could do equals right, open parentheses, open parentheses. Now I want the concatenation, right? So I want the formula to reference the concatenation. Open double quotes, 0, 0, 0, close double quotes, and ampersand. Whatever's in column G, there's our concatenation. I'm just telling the formula to do the concatenation. I'm just telling the formula to do the concatenation within itself, comma. And then once you do the concatenation, I'm telling the formula, give me 3 characters on the right. There you go. That is exactly the same as these two. First part is this whole concatenation. The second part was the right formula. In this part, we're just doing all of it in one shot. So what that eliminates is these 2 columns altogether. I don't need these helper columns in order to do this formula. Does this make sense?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. This is really, so in the beginning, usually people end up using a lot. Even now you'll see people tend to use helper columns, and there's nothing wrong with using helper columns. but there's always a more efficient way to do it. And I want to list that. I want to show you guys both, and so that you guys could pick whatever one that you want. I prefer the nested right formula. It's just cleaner. I don't have to create 2 columns, and I don't have to then hide these 2 columns later on or delete these 2 columns later on. When I could just do the concatenation all in one shot, right? Open parentheses, 0, 0, 0, close parentheses, ampersand, concatenate the 3 or whatever's in the occurrence line column, and then give me what the 3 characters on the right, close parentheses. And it's all there done for me. And I could just copy the formulas and I'm good to go. Now we have a functioning occurrence line as it appears in FMS. Any questions?
No.
Dang, you guys are good, man. No questions at all. All right. We're almost halfway through or just over halfway through. Next is conditional formatting. This is not as vital at this stage. However, it is important when you start doing analysis and finding duplicates, right? This is a good function. Oftentimes, have you guys ever had instances where you have duplicates in a data set and you have to you either sort or then you manually look for that stuff? Have you ever had that before? That's a question.
I have.
You have? Okay. So a way to make that easier for you is that you could just do find duplicates. You could do a find, duplicate thing, conditional formatting. And the way to do that is, let's just say we want to format for 2100. We want to find duplicates for 2100. Okay. For some reason, you want to find everything that's in object code 2100. So what you would do is you would highlight everything in object. And you up here in the home screen, there's this conditional formatting thing. You drop down, and then you're going to do highlight cells. You're going to do new rule, hit new rule over here. And then you're going to do format cells that contain, right? And you can say whatever that is. So we're looking for 2100. 2100, whatever is 21 here, or equal to, sorry, cell value is equal to 2100. And then you can format it however you want. I'm going to choose to fill it with this yellow. And when I hit OK, everything that is 2100 is highlighted here. And now you can use your sort, your multi-sort, or you could use a filter up top to then just filter by that color. And now you have everything that was 2100 filtered for you. You could do that for other things as well. You don't have to look at, let's just say we don't want to see that. We want to find everything that is, I don't know, design. Anything that says design here, we want to look for it, right? So I could highlight this entire column, conditional formatting, highlight cell rule, new rule, format only cells that contain specific text. I'm going to hit design. Let's look up demolition. Let's see. DEMOLITION. I'm going to hit the format. I'm going to make it yellow, hit OK. And here we go. Here's everything that is demolition. Does this make sense?
Yes.
This is going to come in. This is going to come into use when we are isolating duplicates and registrations. For example, we have asbestos registrations under one occurrence line. That's also registered with the general construction under that same occurrence line, but it will be one will be object code 2110, and the other one will be object code 2111. But when we do a VLOOKUP for it, let's just say the asbestos line is up top, and I do a VLOOKUP trying to find the total registration amount for construction, it's only going to pull in the asbestos amount because that's the first thing that the formula encounters. Remember we talked about this when we were talking about VLOOKUPs? So what I do is I find the duplicates, right? The duplicate occurrence lines, and I combine them because that's the full construction. That's how this piece is relevant to running these downloads. Make sense? We're going to see that. We're going to do one entire example. Am I good to move on?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I had jumped the gun a little bit earlier, but this is the mid formula, okay? I had talked about it a little bit earlier that you can, just like the right formula isolates a specific number of characters on the right of whatever text is in the cell, you can use a mid formula to isolate whatever is within text in a particular cell. And this is most important when we want to find the source, the funding source, meaning borough president, city council, mayoral, etc. So do you guys know, looking at a budget line, how we can determine what the funding source is?
There's a
Yeah.
D, the city council,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. What else?
other like some X, the Bronx to Queens and
Exactly.
If it's a digit, it's mayoral. If it starts with a number,
Perfect. Excellent. So which character is that in the budget line?
that's the fourth, I believe.
No,
third.
it's the third.
Oh, I was thinking of the dash for some reason. Okay.
No, there's no, yeah. So it is, if you look at
Okay.
this, it is the third character over here, right? So what
Okay.
we want to do is isolate that third character. We want to pull in that third character because that third character is going to tell us what this is. And then we can assign whatever value we want to it. So what we're going to do is, in order to isolate that third character, we're going to use a mid formula. And the syntax for that I showed you a little bit earlier is going to be equals mid, open parentheses, the cell in which you want to extract the text from. In this case, it's here. The HAK001 budget line, right? Which character do you want to isolate? And that we just established is the third character. We want to isolate the third character within this text, comma. And how many characters do you want to establish? And we just want one, right? We just want the K, we just want the D, we just want the number, whichever the third character is, we just want a single character. So that's going to be a 1. Close parentheses, and there it is. If I was to put in 2, I would get K0. Oh, if I put in 3, I get K00. And if I was to put in 4, I would get K001. Right? Because K is the third character. This is the second character. From the point that we established, this is the third character and this is the fourth character, right? Since our starting point is the third character, 4 characters out would be K001, but we don't want 4, we just want 1. We just want the third character, so we put in 1. You're going to copy, as always, and you're going to paste the values, paste the formulas, and here we go. Anything that is a K is a borough president, Brooklyn borough president. The D is city council. The R is Staten Island borough president. M is Manhattan borough president, and so on and so forth. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Next. So now what you could do is, simply, if you had to go down, you could add a new column. You can filter. Oops. You can filter. And then filter out whenever you see a 0, you can filter it and manually type in mayoral for each of these. Manually type in city council for for each of these, manually type in, you know, BP for all of these. That is an option that you have, but it's not efficient. And you know, you'll always be a better analyst the more efficient you are. So I'm going to show you the next more efficient way that I use in order to then assign where this belongs to. So if you just send, the reason why we assign it is if you just have this report and you send this out to, I don't know, like anyone, if you, the PM, the project manager, or whoever needs to see this report, or even Luann, for instance, it doesn't look good. Presentation is part of it, right? The data accuracy is part of it, but also the way you show that data is also the other part, and that's very important. So what we want to do is, instead of saying K, we want to say borough president. We want it to say city council, or we want it to say mayoral, right? And that's what we're going to do. And we're going to use an if formula, okay? And if formula is just a conditional. It's a conditional formula saying that if you see this result, then give me that result. If you see this result, then give me that result. That's in plain English how if formulas work. If this, then give me this result. If that, then give me that result. If the other, then give me the other result. That's how an if function works. So if I can do if, open parentheses, if this K, let's start with the simple one. If this equals quotations K. Remember, anything that's a text must be in quotations whenever you do a formula. Otherwise, you will not get the result that you want. In fact, it's going to give you an error. Because this is a text, we want to make sure that we put in a quotation within the formula itself, okay? So what I'm saying is, if this is a K, then, which is the comma, open quotation, say this is borough president, close quotations. And then if you can close parentheses here, but there's also another one. If now we're going to add another one. This also takes into account nested formulas as well. So we just add another if statement. So our false statement is another if statement. So usually what happens is it says, if this is K, then give me borough president. Otherwise, give me something else. And I'm just going to type in something else. So this is a borough president. If I drag down this formula, this is a borough president. If I drag down a formula, that's a borough president. But once it hits a 0, it's not a borough president anymore. It's a something else, right? So we're going to use another if statement to figure out what that something else is. So moving on, we could say if D3 is a 0, again, quotations, because we're pulling text. Even though it's a number, it looks like a number, it's actually a text that we're pulling from in this cell. If D3 equals 0, then say it's mayoral. Okay? And then, but we also have city council in there, right? So now we have to add another if statement. And if you don't see any of that, if, open parentheses, D3 is, in quotations, B, then say council. Close quotations. And then you're going to close out all of the open parentheses that you have. This was the first statement. This is the second statement. This is the third statement. So you need 3 closed parentheses at the end. Copy and paste. So now if I copy each of these one by one, look, borough president, mayoral, because this was a 0, borough president, council, because this was a D, mayoral. Uh-oh, we got to one that we didn't enter. We found an R, but we didn't put this in our if statement, so now we can just add that in. So the way the formula works is it goes down the list. It says, hey, is this a K? Yep, it's a K. Okay, return borough president. When it got to here, it says, is this a K? No, it's not a K. Okay, is it a 0? Yep, it's a 0. Okay, fine, mayoral. And then it goes, and when it got to the city council one, it says, is it a K? Nope. Is it a mayoral? Nope. Oh, it's a D. Okay, that's a council. But when it encounters none of these, then it just gives you a false because you didn't give it the code that it needs in order to spit out a value, right? So what we need is an R. So we'll add another comma, another false. Our next false statement is going to be another if nested statement, right? So if D3, oops, we'll go to this one up top, equals if D3 equals R, close parentheses. Then we're going to say borough president. And if I'm looking down the list, we also have an M, so we might as well knock that out too, right? If, open parentheses, D3 equals, in quotations, M, then what we want is borough president as well. And then we add all of the two additional closed parentheses because we added 2 additional statements. Close it out. And now we're going to copy. Now, if we copy all the way down, we should have all of these filled out. Does this make sense, guys?
Yep.
Okay, did you guys get the same result?
Yeah, had to tweak it.
Yes, I do. I do.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent. So do you guys notice that there's a lot of borough presidents here, right? Like R is a borough president, M is a borough president, there's K is a borough president. You're gonna get X, which is also borough president. And you're going to get Q, which is also borough president. They just don't happen to be in this list, but you're going to get that as well. So we have 5 characters delineating borough president funding. Does that make sense? So this is a pretty long formula. You could just do it this way and you'll be just fine. You just add other if statements. I'm going to show you what I like to do. I add something called an or statement, and you don't have to remember this. I know this is already quite much, right? But what I like to do is when I have like delineators, right? For example, what I just mentioned, there's 5 characters that make up borough president, and all of them have the same value, irrespective of which one I get. I use something called an or statement nested in with my if statement. So what I'll do is if or, so I say this equals K, D3 equals Q, D3 equals X, D3 equals M, or D3 equals R. I'm always going to get, then my logic does, because this is always going to be borough president. So it's going to look through and it's going to look, the formula is going to go through the string, and it says, if we encounter, the or statement says, if you encounter any of these, either a K or a Q or an X or an M or an R, always label them borough president. So you don't have to use that gigantic long string that we did, where you have to put in the same formula for each and every single one. I just use an or statement. I lump them all into one, call them all borough president. Now I could use my next if statement for one for mayoral and one for city council. If E3 equals D, then I'm going to say council. And then finally, if D3 equals 0, I want mayoral. And there you go. So I took that entire thing, I just lumped all of them up into one. If using the or statement, if you encounter K or Q or X or M or R, call it borough president. If you encounter a D, call it city council. And if you encounter a 0, call it mayoral. And this functions the exact same way. Like that. And what I like to, and the reason why I like to do it this way, guys, is because I just set up all of these. I set up the nested right formula for occurrences. I set up the source formulas on the right. I set up the division and unit formulas. And we only have 5 minutes, so I'll show you what I mean in my setup template. And I would highly advise you guys, once you start running your own reports, to start doing this. I have a formula already set up for my FMS IDs. I have a formula already set up for my divisions. I have a formula already set up for my units. I have a formula already set up for my occurrences. I have all of my concatenations that I'm going to need, right? And so now when I run or download, I just dump that same download into this every single time, and it automatically populates it for me. And Stephen, that goes out to your question of, about macros. That's why I don't use a macro, because this is far faster for me, because I already have a setup template. I don't need to do any kind of like adjustments. I don't need to make any kind of, formatting changes. In the beginning, I did use macros, and I've used it a lot. But this method just seems far quicker, where I could just download the report. Like, for example, we just downloaded a registration this morning, right? This R51923. I could just take all of these, which I already have, take this, and dump it in here, paste as values, and it will automatically make these edits for me. Like, that's the power of just like using these formulas. So now when you guys start running these reports and you have these setup templates, every time you do a download, you have a setup sheet, and you dump these into these already pre-made formulas, and now you don't have to do any kind of like analysis or a specific form, but you have to know how to do them to get to this point. And
Yep,
that makes sense, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, of course, you don't need to use macros all the time, but it's just when we talked about it last time during the first presentation. But no, this is perfect.
Okay. we have additional stuff but unfortunately we're out of time, right? So before we go, so we're up to the source. If this is already quite a bit, like I recognize this is a lot. That's why I wanted you guys to save 2 separate spreadsheets, so then you could go through them and practice. And obviously, I'm always here. If you encounter problems, just call me over or give me a ring, and I'll help you guys through it. But do you have any questions for what you have seen today? Any comments? Any concerns?
Thank you again.
You're welcome.
It was very informative, man. Thank you.
Okay. Is it too much? Do you guys feel like it's a little like a bit much, or was it clear enough for you guys to be able to recreate this?
I think it's clear, and the video definitely is going to help. And
Okay.
Okay. Very helpful.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, always, I mean, just, this is going to fade if you don't practice it. I'll tell you that much. Like this is quite a bit, and unless you use this, try to take some of these concepts, and maybe not all of them, but try to use them in your own analyses, in your own spreadsheets. Use concatenations, use conditional formatting, use just create a new formula or create a new column and try to pull in which borough president, or which source this is coming from. Just try to use these. Keep it in practice, and then eventually you guys are gonna get good at it. It's gonna become second nature. And your analyses are going to show that too. All right?
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome, guys. Thank you guys for coming. Hopefully we'll have we're gonna have to have another one because I want to show you the pivot. All of this, everything here is just to show you how to create good pivot tables. Pivot tables is really the only, like all of this data here is just going into pivot tables. That's the culmination of all of that. And the pivot table really gives you power over the data itself.
Yeah, I definitely want that.
Yeah.
Faison, thank you so much. I know how much time you and Elsa put into this, and we really, really appreciate it. And we look forward to some more.
Yeah,
Awesome. Thank you.
definitely.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Luann.
Thank
Everyone,
you.
have a great, great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.